The show is about to begin.
Dude, that's Smylie Kaufman for 61. Wow.
Featuring Smylie Kaufman.
If you're at a local IHOP at a PGA Tour event, you might see Hideki Matsuyama.
Put it up in the stance, strengthen the grip.
His co-host, Charlie Hume.
We've now picked 5 of the last 8 winners on the PGA Tour.
Oh, just go in the hole. Please go in the hole. Please go in the hole. Please go in the hole. Yes, sir!
And the biggest names in golf.
That's a great question. Can I talk about it?
I don't think I'm ready.
How good does it get, SK?
Why not ask Charlie?
Today, live from the Pinecrest Inn, it's the Smylie Show. So long, everybody.
This is the Smylie Show.
It is a Friday night here on the Smylie Show. It's about 5:45 p.m. Eastern my time, 10:45 p.m. Eastern, where Smylie is sitting in England. What a day, Smylie. I think prior to the story of the day, which we're going to get to right away, you called this the best Friday you can remember in a while. We had 2 Royal Birkdale course records and ties for the lowest rounds in major championship history, courtesy of Lucas Herbert and Sam Burns. But we ended the day with, and this is very appropriate because we are in England, a piece of true Shakespearean theater, Smylie. Bryson DeChambeau, he makes birdie at the 18th, the post to 66, 7 under for the tournament, solo second, or so we think. And we then learned shortly after that Bryson will potentially be assessed a 2-shot penalty for improving his lie on the second shot at the par 4 fifth hole. What unfolds next, Smylie, is somewhat unprecedented, right? We watched live, like this was on USA Network, unfolding. Bryson, RNA officials, heated fashion, debating whether or not he should be penalized right there on the 5th where he hit that second shot. You observed large parts of this process. You just broke it down on live on Golf Channel. Just give us the key details of this story through your lens.
Well, we had a plan to go do a preview at the 9th hole, and we were going to do some stuff with the fescue, blah, blah, blah.
Great.
And I had heard something in my ear before we went off coverage that there was something going on in scoring. I didn't know exactly what that was. I was like, what could that possibly be? So like my brain was already a little bit turned on to a potential violation of sorts, but I didn't know exactly what it could be. But I had actually seen during one of our commercial breaks, something posted on Twitter with Bryson and a potential rules violation, but it didn't click for me, after the round like that. That's something that they were looking at and potentially assessing him a penalty. So I immediately, called my producer for Live From, was like, hey, let's cancel this thing. We need to go out to the 5th hole. And at that point, it appeared to me from watching USA Sports that they were going to head out. Like they were already on their way, and I was like, we need to go. And so we hopped on like we were the Mystery Machine and Scooby-Doo trying to do a little investigation, Inspector Gadget. And I tell you what, we come out of the compound and we were about to take a right, and 2 carts are coming from the left, and Bryce and I make eye contact, and we both knew it's like it's like, what are the odds of this? That like we weren't supposed to make eye contact in this. We were supposed to just observe. And I was like, all right, let's go find out what's going on. And we watched that whole thing that everybody else did back home on television, just what took place, which is Bryson pleading his case, a bit damning video evidence that I think a lot of people were pointing to. And so when I watched the whole, scene take place, Bryson was pretty adamant about that there shouldn't be a penalty, and as well as his caddy Greg. So as soon as everybody cleared out of there, and then officially the 2-shot penalty was given to Bryson, and that Charlie from the RNA came up and gave that and delivered that news to the media. They initially had a reaction, Brandon and Paul, and of course they were very pro 2-shot penalty in this. And at that point, we had been down there long enough for me to assess the situation. We tried to cross reference camera angles, trees, leaves. Like we are literally doing a puzzle to try to find
sent you the shot
exact
link
spot. Yes.
We're trying to nail this thing down.
So we triangulated the whole thing until we found, being a detective, we found our clue. We found the chalk line. We found the divot.
I love this.
And so we found the divot, and we're like, this is it. This is where the murder happened. And so
it was Bryson DeChambeau and the fescue right of the fifth hole with the gap wedge.
That's right. So we then, my producer and I went through all the scenarios. We went through exactly what we saw Bryson do, and then we looked at where Bryson hit his shot. And then we started looking at, his backswing. Did it touch the fescue? Would it have touched the fescue? And so we're doing all of this and, in real time trying to come up with what it really wasn't our job to determine whether it was deserved a penalty. I'm just trying to go through the player's standpoint of what did he have available in that moment, in that shot, that maybe prior to that wouldn't have been an avenue for him, and could he have just altered his setup to play the shot with the fescue being high? And so that was my goal on live from, and it's a crummy position to be in, because I know people will agree on one thing and then other people see it another way. So all I tried to do in that situation was just try my best to go in the player's mind of what did he have available. And would it have been easier to hit it to where Bryson hit it with a normal backswing versus not a normal backswing? And I think after doing a little bit of recon, doing some practice swings, trying to, position the fescue down versus up, I felt like he could have played the shot originally as intended with the fescue where it was. He would have had to alter some things and may have had to have played a fraction further left, but he didn't. In this situation, if it wasn't his intent to knock down the fescue, it wasn't needed in this situation. So I'll start there. But did he change potentially the situation of his lie and the area of an intended swing by his actions? I think most people would agree that the fescue was not the same as it was before he got there. So in that instance, that's where the RNA is on the 2-shot penalty. I think most people could see that side of it. And all I'll say is that he would have just had to change and alter his swing to hit it where he did. I hit it. I kind of caught it a little thin, landed it on the green. It was actually an excellent shot when the fescue was just when it was up. But like that's where I'm good. Like, these are the situations that I can get out of. So let's not act like this is something
right miss off the tee. That's Smylie Kaufman's happy spot, right?
This is and honestly, and I think they even asked me this. It's like Paulie did. He said, like, was he lucky to find the golf ball? Absurdly lucky to find that golf ball. And he ended up making a 5 anyways. He probably would have made a 5 on his provisional ball. I know he pulled it left, but still. And he probably in this instance wish he didn't find the golf ball, so he didn't have to deal with any of this. But because now I think you got to get into Bryson, like what was maybe potentially lip read in all this, that he may not even play tomorrow, and he's hit golf balls. His agent is coming out with a statement saying that he's a lot of things, but he's certainly not a cheater. And even in this, like, I don't think the RNA is calling him a cheater. We're just saying that the situation that he arrived in changed, and whether it was his intent or not. I think that's where the RNA stance is. And like Bryson, he may, and it's clearer that he wasn't trying to change lie, but I think most pros know in that anytime you get in a place with high fescue where you're like if you could potentially knock a branch off, or if anything really just comes off of a flower, whatever it is, like you can't alter it. So like practice swings, you have to be super careful just not to change what the golf swing might be. So I did my best. I think my point came across. The only thing that I would have corrected would have been, you're not entitled to getting behind the golf ball, and Brandel was quick to kind of get in there and say you're not entitled to that.
come in a lot more better prepared to play than, say, we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Atlanta should be the team to step up and secure him.
Yeah, Atlanta's really interesting because they're much further down the list at only 8% right now on Call Sheet, but this is a team that has constantly come up in terms of GMs thinking, or the reports suggesting that GMs are thinking that Atlanta Braves are the dark horse team to kind of swoop in there and get Scoogle, and that's going to be something that we should pay attention to.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Wembanyama goes to the park and plays chess against people. I saw him come in with a book today. Yeah. He walked in with a book, Kevin. He had a bunch of books in his hand. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, he's the only NBA player that actually walks in with a book that actually read it.
Yeah. It's a good take. Yeah,
shot of LeBron. Listen, I couldn't help it.
I knew that I was trying to cut you off before you said the name.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
I then corrected myself and say, well, you can get behind the golf ball. You just can't change, your intended swing path.
And I want to continue to go a little granular on Bryson DeChambeau, his, whether or not he's going to continue to participate in this major championship, things like that. But first, I'd love to kind of go big picture, Smylie, and I want to tee this next prompt up like very clearly. I want to say I'm not making any accusations of wrongdoing for any of the players I'm about to mention, nor am I suggesting that any of the governing bodies I'll mention are going about their enforcement of the rules in the wrong way, but simply seeking to understand both on my behalf and on the behalf of our audience, how this all works on a week-to-week basis, given the insights you have. So we saw videos on social media during the U.S. Open. Wyndham Clark taking practice swings in front of his ball at Shinnecock Hills, through some tall grass in front of him. He was not penalized. We also saw at Shinnecock Hills, Joaquin Niemann assessed a 2-shot penalty for throwing a club under this new code of conduct. You were with John Rahm today. He throws a club. He gets assessed a warning, not a penalty. As it relates to governing bodies and potential differences between the USGA and the RNA, I think back a year ago to Oakmont, Sam Burns not given relief from what many felt was clearly standing water. Do you have thoughts that you're comfortable sharing, or maybe opinions from players you're comfortable sharing on the consistency of rules enforcement across different governing bodies?
Well, I think where I'll have to start is like who I've had the most interactions with, and that's the PGA Tour. I think the PGA Tour does the best job of being able to listen to the players and being able to assess certain situations that we deal with on a week-to-week basis. Now, there are some things that I think have maybe gone too far in the game that maybe the PGA Tour is not willing to make a stance and award penalties, whether it be slow play, whether it be troughing in your line when you're tapping down spike marks, or even just the situation you talked about with how the casual water with Sam Burns like that. I don't think the PGA Tour would have sent the players back out to put them in that situation. They would have waited most likely. So, and that's that's the USGA and the PGA Tour and the RNA. Like they all have very, very capable and talented people working on their rules staff. And I think the RNA is probably as well as the USGA, like they're going to use what they have, which is video, because it's such a case-by-case basis. Now, when you talk about code of conduct penalties, I think that's a very much a gray area right now that they need to help kind of define with players, like what the levels are in this, because it's so subjective, and like more players that are featured are going to have more cameras on them. What happens with other guys who don't have the cameras on them or the mic? So that the code of conduct thing is I think something that we might have to deal with down the road. But in this instance, I think with when you have video that shows Bryson, seeing that fescue change from that TV tower behind 5, like it's just tough for them to not make a ruling on that. So I imagine the RNA were steadfast in what they believed in this, and they wouldn't have given him the penalty if they truly believed that grass didn't change in this instance.
Immediately after your live from hit from that spot, Rex Hogger reported on the rumors that Bryson was considering withdrawing from the Open in response to the penalty assessed. Todd Lewis subsequently reported that Bryson, while hitting balls, said he was going to wait until tomorrow morning, to decide whether or not he'll play. Smylie, just try, if you can, to imagine what happens in the wake of a Bryson DeChambeau WD while tied for 5th and 3 shots off the lead at the Open Championship.
Well, nobody wants that. I would be very disappointed in this. Like, if you're a player and this happens to you, right? Like, all you can do is even if you disagree with it, the worst thing you want to be labeled as in this is somebody who doesn't follow the rules. And I think that's human nature for anybody. So there's a lot of emotions that come with that, right? Like there's I don't know if embarrassment is the right word, but like just a sense of like how someone was raised. Like all these things are now like brought into question for, what happened to the player. So all of those emotions, I'm sure Bryson was dealing with those in real time, and we were all having to watch, which is just part of being a professional athlete, and also the TV business is that this sells, right? Like whether you like it or not, like people are more interested in this Open Championship now more than ever before. I sure to hope that he's playing golf tomorrow, right? Like he can use this as something that could help, for whether it's motivation. I'll prove you wrong. And it's like he's done it all week, right? Like it's not like like this has been a clean week for Bryson. Like Sir Nick Faldo, like one of the best English players of all time, called him out at the beginning of the week, talking that he had no clue how to play Open Championship golf, didn't know how to properly get around links golf. Like bomb and gouge doesn't work. Strategy, right? Like all of this. And Bryson then came back this week, or after that Thursday round, and basically was acknowledging that in a very roundabout way that I think I know what I'm doing. And then he goes out today and has that birdie at 18, and he's in the final group tomorrow. So like all of those things were, it was a momentum of Bryson DeChambeau of potentially winning it. Not to say he still can't win an Open Championship. He's only 3 back of the
shots
lead,
off,
and he's going to have his crowd behind him on the weekend. If he's sniffing it around there, unless Tommy Fleetwood is neck and neck with him, like he will have the support. And I don't know. It doesn't change my opinion of Bryson in this. I'm not sure how you feel. Like I think that it was, whether it was a mistake or intent, like it just is what it is. He got a penalty. Let's move on.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the hottest topic, in group text, all my friends watching the Open, trying to make sense of what's happening. I mean, I think that you're being led a little bit by the analysis that you all are putting in front of them, which is if he altered the path of his backswing by the letter of the law, that's a penalty. For me, I feel like it's a little bit harsh, because I think that there are guys that get away with this type of stuff on a week-to-week basis, and they don't necessarily, whether they're not in contention or they don't have the spotlight on them like Bryson does.
So when you say like too harsh, you mean 2 shots is too much in this position?
I'm all for enforcing the letter of the law of the rules, Smylie. I just want it to be consistent. And that's kind of why I wanted to ask you that sort of longer tee up of just like what you see there across governing bodies, because I feel like there are times where, and this is not specific to this rules violation for Bryson, but Patrick Reed at the beginning of the week talking about the code of conduct was saying, I don't know what to make sense of this. Like, is it every time you throw a club, it's auto 2 shots? Like it's sort of a nebulous thing.
It's like a yellow card.
It's like it's exactly right. Like you get a yellow and then like do it again. Okay, you get another yellow, red. You're out of here. But I just think like because respect for the rules and respect for the game is such a big part of just the culture of golf and just this game for years. Like I don't necessarily love the way Bryson went about hitting that shot, just the way he was kind of trampling around back there, but a lot of guys kind of try to do the same thing to create an advantage. Like I think you could almost create a parallel conversation about like you're playing a PGA Tour event. There's some, there's trouble on the left. There's a big grandstand on the right. Like let's just ship it up there, hit it off the grandstand, take TIO.
Oh,
like,
we're not gonna shame TIOers. We will not do any of that.
I'm not here to shame TIOers. I'm simply just saying that I would just like to see everything be consistent across the board. And that's why I feel like Bryson was a little bit hard done by here. Like, because I
think you're disconnecting too many of these things. Like this is such a specific thing, like code of conduct. Like I think that it's its own like separate debate. But when you have something that is in our rule book of something that you can actually be able to look at and make a ruling on, it is not subjective in this. And so I would say that with I think like being too harsh, like 2 shots, was it too harsh? I then would probably say like, okay, what would have happened if he, considering that I was in the exact same right spot and his backswing gets tangled at all in the fescue and coming down gets tangled in the fescue, where does that golf ball go? Like, does it get out of the pond area? Does it hit the tree? Does it go tangle left into the bunker? So there's all of these possible scenarios that could have happened if he decided to take a swing with keeping the fescue involved in his backswing. Now, he probably would have done that. He would have aimed further left. Like, you're going to take a swing that you feel like is going to be, the safest option for you to get out of that situation. How he played the shot and how he set up to it, I did the best that I could based off of where he hit the shot to try to simulate it. And so with that being said, I'm still just, it wasn't worth, like if there was intent or if there wasn't, it wasn't worth it because it was playable.
It was playable,
I think.
And by the way, like,
it was worth the hack.
100% agreed with you that by the letter of the law, he gets a 2-shot penalty. Fully in agreement with that. I just see a lot of lie mashing, practice swings that are chopping out grass in front of guys to improve the exit line of their ball, tamping down lines with putters to create. Like, you see that on a week-to-week basis, and not a ton gets done about it. And it's like, if this is the one that gets singled out, it's just hard for me. It's hard for me.
No, I think those are so, like, that's more of a problem in the game, more so like than this.
Agreed.
This like totally very like this situation that played out that is completely unique to those. Like, that's more of a. Now I agree with maybe like you could make an argument that you'll see sometimes like with a fairway metal, right? Like somebody will be in between clubs, they'll put the fairway metal down, grass kind of lays down, and they go back and get the iron.
Oh wow!
Like that's something that has happened in our game, and it's not something that's great. But these are things that I think with video review, if you're in the lead or around the lead, like this is what happens, right? Now, does it happen? Are there cameras on every single person to be able to police this? No, but like you have caddies, you have players in every single group that are holding the rest of the field, or I should say that player in particular accountable. And now Scotty Scheffler was playing with Bryson DeChambeau today. Tyrrell Hatton was playing with him. They were so far removed from this situation, how far away it was from them, that it was probably tough for them to even get an angle of like, well, like, was that in the way? Was it not in the way? I don't really know. Like, where's the golf ball? Like, I'm 60 yards away. So all you can really use is the video that the R&A used in this. And that's ultimately the determination they came up with, whether Bryson likes it or not.
Come in a lot more better prepared to play than say we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Atlanta should be the team to step up and secure him.
Yeah, Atlanta's really interesting because they're, much further down the list at only, 8% right now on Kalshi. But this is a team that has constantly come up in terms of GMs thinking, or the reports suggesting that GMs are thinking that Atlanta Braves are the dark horse team to kind of swoop in there and get Scoogle. And that's going to be something that, we should pay attention to.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Wembanyama goes to the park and plays chess against people. Like, I saw him come in with a book today. Yeah. He walked in with a book, Kevin. He had a bunch of books in his hand. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, he's the only NBA player that actually walks in with a book that actually read it.
Yeah. It's a good take. It's a good take.
Yeah. Shot of LeBron.
Listen,
I couldn't help it.
I knew that I was trying to cut you off before you said the name.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
He is officially been bumped down the leaderboard. He is tied for fifth. He's at 5 under. I know it's late on your end, Smylie. Just want to kind of wrap up quickly with the rest of what happened on Friday, which was amazing.
Ask if I had dinner tonight.
Yeah, I'm thinking no, given what I've heard from you the rest of this week. All right, so 2 course records today. Tied for the lowest round in major history. Lucas Herbert, Sam Burns both shot 62. Shades of the Ricky Fowler, Xander Schauffele double 62s at LACC in 2023. Following names, Smylie, are tied for 8th or better. John Rahm, Tommy Fleetwood, Scotty Scheffler, Robert McIntyre, Bryson DeChambeau, Sam Burns, Cam Young. Just give me a little bit of your highlight reel on why this Friday was so good. And of those guys, who do you like to kind of make a move on Saturday? Because like even Scotty, 149th in the field today with just 45 feet of putts made, yet just 4 shots off the lead. A lot of guys have opportunities to kind of make a move.
You said Scotty? Is that who you just said?
Scotty was 149th in the field today with just 45 feet of putts made. 4 off.
Guys, he hit 4 under?
4 under.
Oh, wow. Gosh, yes, he's right there. I mean, dude, it was one of the best Fridays that I can remember.
So
even with the circus that happened at the very end of the, actually, it was kind of cherry on top of just an incredible day. Not that I'm cheering for Bryson to get a 2-shot penalty by any means, but the crowds, man, were just phenomenal today. The songs, the cheering, it was like a little mini Ryder Cup that broke up out there. With the cheers for Tommy and Tyrrell, and then also Bryson being in the mix, Scotty out there. It was awesome, and the golf course was so awesome. It was fantastic out there. Now, I'll say that what I didn't love about how this golf course is starting to move is that I think it's trending towards, in certain situations, like just hit driver. It's where we've kind of gotten there.
That's what, like, you and I were talking about driver. There's a great stat. Like, it was like driver usage of the 28 holes where you could potentially hit driver. And if you look, like, Bryson tied for 13th in the field, pulling driver on 17 of 28 holes. That was a recipe for success. They got him near the top of the leaderboard. And so it's interesting.
I think Tommy hit 2 drivers today. Is like what my count was for it. So
he was
like
we talked
about
in the field. 10 out of 10 drivers on 28 holes. Tommy Fleetwood.
Yeah, and you can't really trust that thing like fully. You know, I'm not sure who's logging that information, but I had him for 2 today. Now, yesterday was a little bit different in the morning for him because there's a little bit less wind, and that there's probably more opportunities for him to pick and choose. You know, keeping the ball to stop in the fairways. I just think that this weekend is open for somebody that gets hot with the driver, that plays aggressively and into spots that you know, whether it's in the fescue or finding a couple good angles. You know, the best example I can give you is on the 10th hole today. Tommy Fleetwood decided to hit a fairway metal off the tee. He had a 6-iron into the green. It was 180 yards, but it was playing like 195. But he'd hit the fairway. He kept it out of the pot bunkers, eliminated all of them off the tee. It's a dogleg left hole if you haven't watched much of the coverage. And Jon Rahm decided he was going to try to cut the corner and hit driver off the tee. And Jon Rahm, I went up to his golf ball, and it was sitting like below his feet, but down in some fescue. And typically I would have said, man, that lie's not that great. Like that's one that he might be able to like scrape onto the front of the green. And so I'll tell you what happens with the shot. So Tommy kind of pulls a 6-iron, hits it to like 50 feet. And there's 81 yards in between Tommy Fleetwood and Jon Rahm. 81 yards into a par 4.
Wow.
That's how, like, the difference in like what Jon Rahm cut off of this hole versus what Tommy chose to do. Tommy hits it to 50 feet. And then Jon Rahm gets down there and he just flips this 77-yard wedge. It just comes and lands in like a butterfly, lands 15 feet short of where he was ended up, and just kind of trundled out to a back hole location, walks in a 10-footer for birdie. And it was like that aha moment of watching what Bryce or Jon Rahm did on the 9th hole too, which Rory McIlroy's driven that green both days, 400 something yards.
The drive today was so good.
Rahm blocks it well to the right and ends up in some trampled area, and he's 65 yards from the green. And even off of hard pan was able to hit it to 15 feet because it was soft enough. The greens are soft enough to stop. So it's who can get a hot driver on the weekend, because I think you're going to need some birdies and some firepower to move up this board. Seeing that I think it was like a record number of rounds below 70 today. I don't think the golf course is what it is right now. I don't think the greens are going to just drastically get firmer and firmer to where, you know, the players that are playing more conservatively are going to be rewarded in this. I think you're going to have to take some chances. Now, unless you just have some precision, you know, short to mid iron play, like 9 to 6 irons at times. And those are tough to get close to the hole when you're dealing with crosswind. So Tommy was able to do it a couple times, but over the course of the next 36 holes, like, you might have a bad swing here or there and you might be walking away with a bogey or two. You might need some firepower to keep chase with the birdies. So that's kind of my take on what to expect for this weekend.
I'll close with congrats to you for absolutely nailing leader score and cut line. 8 under, 1 over. How about it? Pretty good.
Was it 1? I thought I said 2. I can't remember.
Did you say 2?
I may have said 2.
Someone will fact check.
I didn't think it was going to come from Lucas Herbert in a 62. And even Burnsy, like I didn't even know he was playing good. And then we're on 18. It's like, wait, if he holds this bunker shot, he shoots 62. And Kids is like, it's actually not that hard of a bunker shot. And it was just like, bang, boom. So.
Well, and a little bit of congrats to me, right, for Ryan Gerard shout out.
Yeah.
For a second, 6 under. How about that, buddy?
We always are going to manifest that. So
always.
Thank you. Even if we're not saying it.
We're saying it.
What did he make on 18? Is he at 6 under?
He's a 6-under. Yeah, he had
Okay,
a
cool.
great. He hit it left with I think an iron off the tee, and then hit like a layup shot and hit a great wedge to 3 feet.
Oh, great.
Easy par. Yeah,
He's right there, man. He's right
so
there.
sick. It's so
There's
sick.
so many guys that are right there in it, man. It's what it's going to come down to is who can make the momentum par putts. Honestly, like that's where my
Yeah.
head is at in this. It's like who can make the 6 to 8 footers for par. And not saying like it's going to play like a U.S. Open. I just think there's going to be enough birdie opportunities out there and enough just lag putting pars that it feels like the leader's going to go out and make 5 or 6 birdies over the course of the day on the weekend, and it's like who can just keep their card more clean.
Yeah, well, tune in tomorrow to see if Bryson DeChambeau decided to tee it up or withdraw.
Yeah, what's our
And for-
take? I think he does tee it up, and he's at 5 under.
He has to.
I think there's gonna be a lot of emotion around his play tomorrow, and whether he's able to kind of channel that. I mean, I'd love it for the golf tournament if he did, but I could see it also going the other way. And I don't think nobody wants to see like a pouting Bryson, leaving the course again tomorrow, Saturday. So I hope he goes out and plays well tomorrow and is able to, kind of use it as motivation, if you will.
When we get up there, it's past defense that marks the TIO. So he said anything that's in there is part of the TIO. So then we tried to figure it out. I said, if I find it, does that help me? Can I drop it since that would be 50 yards closer to the hole? He said, yes, you can then use that spot, but you might have to go to the other side of the TIO, which I didn't know exactly where that would be. And that's not a great angle coming across there. So I decided to stop the search and go back and drop it doing point of entry TIO relief. Actually, I did that once this year during the Byron as well. Not something I'm proud of, but I was familiar with. They had guys pointing from up there like it landed right here, and I just kind of hauled up there, and I was like, guys, get out of there, stop, do not find the ball. Scotty tells you right there he's not proud of it. I don't, when we've talked about this on the show, I don't fault guys for trying to use the rules in their favor, but I mean, if we can locate the ball within 3 minutes, and that gives us the most correct and fair reference point for TIO relief, should we not be attempting to do that to protect the rest of the field? Scotty tells you right there he's not proud of it. I don't. When we've talked about this on the show, I don't fault guys for trying to use the rules in their favor. But I mean, if we can locate the ball within 3 minutes, and that gives us the most correct and fair reference point for TIO relief, should we not be attempting to do that to protect the rest of the field?
Well, I just it's not fair for me to say to not really examine that entire area to understand what that temporary immovable obstruction is, because every single week we see hospitality in grandstands. It's a part of golf. It's part of being a professional golf in the business of golf, which you have sponsors, you host people, they go out, they drink beers, they watch golf, they cheer, and then you tip your cap. It's kind of how it works. And so those people got to have a place to sit. And so here's the deal. There's been plenty of places that your golf ball hits a hospitality tent and all of a sudden it could end up going out of bounds. Like there are wrong sides of the coin of this thing. Now these are bad shots we're talking about, but in those situations, like it could be an out of bounds deal. I don't understand how and why that's whole area is considered to be a temporary immovable obstruction. If typically when that happens, it's a fenced off area, something that no players have access to. And so they just say, you know what, this whole area, if a golf ball goes into here, we're giving you a free job, because first off, we can't get you in, we can't get you out. But here's the thing. I didn't examine the area, so it's not fair for me to give you feedback on this. All I can tell you is that I've had a couple instances on tour where I remember that my golf ball ended up in a TIO. The rules official said, don't need to go find it over there. I think it happened right of 9 at Sawgrass is when it happened to me. He's like, just come back out here. I've even covered it where a player hit it up there right of 9 at Sawgrass, and they just say, hey, bring it back here. Don't need to find it. Just drop. And so, yes, like everybody would agree that the ball should be played for where it ends up. Was it your kid?
Yes. Did you hear that? we were having a little bit of a situation downstairs. I'm supposed to take the family to we're going on a little beach excursion this week, which I'm very much looking forward to. Playing some golf down in Wilmington. But we're my wife's trying to pack, and then we're gonna go to Trader Joe's, get some groceries, and do a little family dinner at Cava. And it is I'm happy I'm up here in the office right now. I'll say that. Some of the texts I've read, this is a very safe place for me to be.
We'll just keep on, man. We'll keep on.
We'll just keep on, baby. All right, so we had that situation, right? And then Scotty was also asked about, he steered way clear of the Bryson stuff yesterday, but he was asked about it again. Like, are you willing to talk about it a little more today? He said, all I can really say is I think maybe we need to be a little more strict in the way that we are policing guys, but it's a little bit of a balance, because you've got certain guys like a Bryson who every shot he hits is going to be shown on TV. When you have camera angles that are far away, things can look different than they do when you're right there. All I'll say is Bryson, I've known him for a long time, and he's a lot of things, but he's definitely not a cheater. I've never seen him cheat once. When you're watching from him there from that camera angle, maybe he was a touch careless around his ball, but I don't think he did anything intentionally. I feel like at times, sometimes you see players maybe push it a little bit further than they should. I think we need to kind of get back to the traditions of the game, and maybe we do need to police things a little bit more stricter in the game. So when you and I talked about this on Friday night, I think we both agreed on this. Neither of us were calling Bryson a cheater, and I think a touch careless around the ball is probably the most correct characterization of what happened. We also agreed that by the letter of the law, it's a penalty, even though we disagreed about the consistency of some of these rules applications. Here's where I struggle on all this, Smylie, is we're talking about getting back to the traditions of the game, and the same press conference where we're talking about the correct strategy for a ball search with TIO in play. And like, I'm not placing blame on Scotty. I just think it highlights like how some of these things are starting to feel a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah, and I don't think that, I think a lot of fans just will say, well, a certain player is being treated this way because they're on the PGA Tour, or they're well more liked, and versus like Bryson, who's on Live and definitely a little bit more on the different side than other guys. But it doesn't change the situation that Bryson was in versus like how rules officials handle any situation, which is what are we looking at? What's the problem? And And I think video can be difficult. It's tough. Like the whole Bryson thing, like you said, everybody can tell like he was being careless in there, but was he trying to cheat? I don't think he was trying to cheat. Like he just didn't need to do what he did, which was just stomping around like crazy. That was just wild to me. But yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I think the USGA, like with the Sam Burns thing at Oakmont, you look at the USGA with the Wyndham Clark incident that continues to be compared to the Bryson thing, and just imagine if they had different angles to look at the Wyndham deal to see if that was egregious or not. It certainly looks like it from that vantage angle, but I can tell you this, like the amount of times that I would go try to practice in what I felt like was similar rough so that the ball wouldn't move is often. Like that's something that I would regularly do, but from that camera angle, it would look terrible, right? Like you just don't know exactly what you're looking at. And so I don't know if this is a good thing moving forward. You just hope that golf will be policed if it's a more strict way, or having more video to help in all of this, and maybe even have players, speak up about things that they do see. And when they tell rules officials, I saw this, and rules officials to be able to say, you know what, like we know that you didn't intend to do this, but we have 2 players that are not going to sign your scorecard because they saw this. It's like, you can't just continue to side on the players if other people saw something. So that it's a hot topic. It's an uncomfortable topic. It's not one that I enjoy talking about because you're talking about somebody's character and how they play the game, and just the integrity that they have and that they carry themselves with. So none of it's, I don't enjoy any of it. And none of talking about the whole Bryson thing and having to demonstrate it all was not fun. I didn't enjoy that, but all I try to do is just do my job, which is provide the most context I possibly could, to at least give people just like, all right, well, this video from whatever yards away, like definitely shows that he cheated. It's like, no, like I'll show you like if the fescue's here, if it's here, if he had a swing or not. Like that's all I was trying to do.
Come in a lot more better prepared to play than say we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Atlanta should be the team to step up and secure him.
Yeah, Atlanta's really interesting because they're, much further down the list at only, 8% right now on Call Sheet. But this is a team that has constantly come up in terms of GMs thinking, or the reports suggesting that GMs are thinking that Atlanta Braves are the dark horse team to kind of swoop in there and get Scoogle. And that's going to be something that, we should pay attention to.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Wembanyama goes to the park and plays chess against people. I saw him come in with a book today. Yeah. He walked in with a book, Kevin. He had a bunch of books in his hand. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, he's the only NBA player that actually walks in with a book that actually read it.
Yeah. It's a good take. Yeah.
Shot of LeBron. I couldn't help it.
I knew that I was trying to cut you off before you said the name.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
breaking down all the action on Saturday from the third round at the 154th Open Championship. And Smylie, we're going to start with, you were with the Bryson DeChambeau, Sam Burns pairing today. We need to, and we are going to discuss our leader, Sam Burns, at 10 under. But the most talked about topic of the day, once again, is Bryson DeChambeau. So just give us your set of notes, run us through the day, how it felt for you in terms of the crowd reception, his general mood, anything of note coming off that 2-stroke penalty he was assessed on Friday night.
Well, I mean, Bryson came out focused today. Like, I watched his warm-up, or the tail end of it. Dude was firing balls. Like, every 15 seconds, a ball was in the air, and it was going at the target. I was like, this guy's ready to shoot 54 today. And so heading to the first tee, I was just curious, like, what would the reception be like? I didn't expect anything poor. You know, I thought there was a chance that we might have some issues out there today, but for the most part, he was well supported throughout the whole day. There was moments, right? But it was almost like playful at times. Like, you know how they sing songs over here and have a good time? Like, it was in that vein.
Yes. Well, I thought something very interesting is what happened after the round for a number of players who were asked about the whole scene on Friday night. And I think Max Homa and Sam Burns, of all the players we heard from in those press conferences on live from, were the most supportive or defensive of Bryson, speaking on his behalf, saying, hey, the penalty was a little bit harsh. They don't think Bryson's a cheater. Scotty Scheffler seems kind of scarred from what happened last year at the Open, was very like neutral Switzerland. Like, I have thoughts on this, but I'm not going to give them to you right now. On the flip side, we had Shane Lowry and Rory McIlroy. Shane felt like it was a penalty. He was assessed a 2-stroke penalty last year at the Open for a moving ball, so he's certainly qualified to comment on the topic. I'm going to read you an excerpt of what Rory said after his round. The question he was asked was, what did you think of the scenes after? Obviously, you guys were delayed getting your tee times as well because of all that going on. And his response was, late night for everyone. I won't pretend to be up here and defend Bryson. I'm not particularly fond of him. I think a lot of it's performative. I think a lot of it's for attention. To hold the tournament hostage like that and to have all of us players, volunteers, everyone waiting on him to depart, I didn't feel like it was a great look. I'll say this for Rory's behalf. I love honesty from anyone in the public domain, and I think Rory's at a stage of his career where he's going to tell you exactly what he thinks. What did you make of those comments, and how many players in the field, if you want to like give us a guesstimate on percentage, do you think agree with what Rory said?
Oh, I can't give you that. That's tough for me
Okay,
to give
fair.
you.
Had to ask,
but dude, I think Rory, like when he gets like 60 or 70 years old, he's gonna have amazing takes. Like, I mean, we're gonna be just
like Nick Faldo on
content.
Steroids.
Yes, we're gonna be just swimming. Like, we're not gonna ever have some content with some of these takes. I mean, listen, golf, I think has a rivalry. It's pretty obvious between these two. We don't get to see them go up against each other very often, but when we have, we know that they want to beat each other very badly. Even go back to like their match deal that they had. I don't even remember where it was or when it was, but
was that in Vegas? It was Rory and Scotty against Bryson and Brooks, right?
Yeah, but I just remember the whole thing being just kind of awkward, right? Like, it felt like that should have been right into Bryson's alley, and he like kind of shied away from it. Like,
he played poorly and started sulking, right?
Yeah, so there's just kind of those things that you look back to. I know I'm getting a little bit off topic, but he's speaking how he feels, and like, you got to appreciate the honesty. Like, I think behind closed doors, like a lot of these players would say things like that. Now, is that what we're saying behind closed doors? No, like I understand that Bryson, like he brings a huge audience to the game, and whether you like YouTube golf or not, or if you don't like his antics, and understandably, like he's not for everybody, but he is for a lot of people. And so I respect that. I know how much he cares for the game and loves the game. But at the same time, like, you can also like nitpick some of his actions at times. Like, you could have looked last night and said like some of the antics were a bit childish. There's a lot to talk about. I think the lead will probably be let's go with 11 under.
11 under.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's go with 11 under.
There we go. You heard it here
I
first.
feel like 10's the right answer, but I'm gonna go with 11.
11. I like it. We'll check in with you right back here tomorrow night. We appreciate y'all watching and listening, and enjoy moving day at the 154th Open Championship.
We'll see you next week on the Golf Channel. This has been The Smylie Show.
You know, I listen to this podcast. It's really cool. And
all of our lovely fans and subscribers, but make sure you like and subscribe.
It's cool to see what you guys are doing. I know golf fans appreciate it, but we do too, so please keep it up.
For all the good people at YouTube, like and subscribe.
You guys have some good takes, so I'm happy to come on and shoot the